And the U.S. Senate has passed a bill that would allow the families of September 11 victims to sue Saudi Arabia for any role in the attacks on the World Trade Center and Pentagon. The Saudi kingdom denies any involvement. Nearly 3,000 people died in the attack. Well, joining me now for more on the bill is Peter Mathews. He's a professor of political science at Cypress College in Los Angeles. Professor, thank you very much for joining us. Now, explain to us, what does this bill actually mean? Because the 9/11 Commission report back in 2004 found no evidence that the Saudi government as an institution or senior officials individually funded the organization.
That's correct. It's called the Justice Against Sponsors of Terrorism Act, or JASTA. It was passed unanimously by the U.S. Senate. And what the bill means is, if it does become law, is that American citizens can sue foreign governments that sponsor terrorism on their soil, on our soil. So it's a very serious bill because President Obama has threatened to veto the bill. He says it will complicate international law because if that can happen, then it could happen in the opposite direction as well, that the U.S. government could get sued by foreign nationals who are victims of, say, what you call collateral damage in a drone strike, for example, where their families, innocent families, get killed by a military action of the U.S. So Obama is very loath to have this pass, and yet the Senate's unanimous vote indicates that when the House gets it, it'll probably pass by a large number of votes, in which case the president's veto will not be sustained. It'll actually be overridden, and it'll become law anyways. It's a very tricky situation right now. A precarious one between U.S. and Saudi relationships.
Let's talk about those relations. We're talking about up to $750 billion in assets that could be potentially sold.
Yes, that's what the Saudi government has threatened to do if this act becomes law. And that's a lot of money that the Saudis will unload that they've lent the U.S. government, and it'll create a lot of havoc with the markets and with the fiscal policy. So we're looking at some serious ramifications if this bill does pass. Yet you can understand that many Congress members are very concerned about voting against an act like this, which seems to have such popular support. It sounds like it's the victims of the 9/11 attacks that are due some justice. By the way, in 2005, the victims of the 9/11 families did take court action, and the judge ruled in a district court here in the United States that the Saudi government was not liable, that it was in fact not allowed to be a defendant. It's not going to be a defendant in the actual action because the act doesn't apply to it. It said, the judge said this action originated outside the United States, and therefore the Saudi government was not culpable in any way or even be able to be sued by the victims of the family. So that ruling in 2005 was the beginning, the first shot in this direction. Again, in 2015, when the court case came up again, a judge ruled in the opposite direction, saying that yes, the victims' families can sue the Saudi government or any government that sponsors terrorism if it does. And so it's a very, very complicated situation right now and very precarious for the relationship, because Saudi Arabia has been an ally of the United States, as you know, particularly when it comes to the oil supplies that this country is dependent on for so long. And the Saudis have kept the oil coming to the United States, and there's a lot of American investments there, vice versa, in oil company, joint ventures and things.
So from
what it should be very interesting to watch to see what happens if this act does become law.
If it becomes law, I mean, it looks like Congress is on a collision course with the Obama administration then.
Yes, it does, and I think the votes will probably be there to pass this law against his veto if the unanimous vote in the Senate is any kind of indication. And if they do pass it and it becomes law, then you have to see what the Saudis will do and how that might push the Saudis away from the U.S. relationship or create a whole, throw a monkey wrench in there, so to speak. And we'll have to see how each side responds after that. It's hard to tell right now at this point.
All right. Professor Mathews joining us live from Los Angeles. Thank you very much for that analysis.